I can look here and I can see you.
All right, good morning, everybody. We are live, and I just wanted to let everyone know online and in the room that Venerable is on a plane coming home from California right now, and she pre-recorded our Dharma talk today, so I'm going to be sharing that video with everybody.
Wow. Thank you. Awesome. First popcorn?
Okay, so the first part gonna not be there? Okay. So hello, dear friends. I am in my hotel room in Pasadena, California, getting ready for a 6 a.m. departure to the airport. So it means that I'm going to be on a plane at the time that we should be having Dharma. So I'd like to record this for you tonight and be with you by video, even though I can't be with you in person. We want to try to finish out the book by Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, The Prison of Life. And if you have your copies, if you'll just pull it out. And just to bring us into today's lesson, let's review just a little bit. You know, it's great to have these small booklets. This is about a 30-page booklet, very small, but they're invaluable to us in getting something ingrained in the mind just by simply being able to read it over and over. And we don't even mind reading it over and over because it's so short. But here's the thing, that once we get in the habit of reviewing in this way, actually, my Buddha master calls it the 7 Dharma method. And he says that you don't even really get anything that sinks in deeply until you read it, listened to it, discussed it at least 7 times. So we just start getting in the habit of not just reading something once and putting it on a bookshelf. That's how we end up with these really large libraries, but we're only retaining a small percentage and actually living even smaller percentage. So we become lifelong students of the Dharma, and we take that as a badge of pride, but actually we should be accomplishing the Dharma. And these past months, Actually, it's been a year now. That's how we've been trying to examine where we are in our practices, how much of this, not that we know, but how much we can actually walk out. And it can be very challenging to critique yourself in this way. We're so used to having an aversion to being critiqued. And I can understand we don't want other people to be judging us, right? And we shouldn't be judging each other, but we certainly should be judging ourselves. And judging doesn't have to be harsh or heavy. Actually, when one is free to really assess their behavior, their speech, their thoughts, when they're able to really honestly look at it, and really be truthful, having that deep integrity, it is very liberating. It's very freeing because it starts to break down and break up and destroy delusion. And that's our whole problem, just being deluded. And so the obstacles that arise in our life, 99% of them arise in the mind, and maybe a small percentage is out there, something really happening. But how we process that, how we see it, how we understand it, and how we respond to it all has to do with the picture that is in our mind. And so he talks in this whole book about a book by Buddhadasa Bhikkhu on a bookshelf. That's how we end up with these really large libraries, but we're only retaining a small percentage and actually living even smaller percentage. So we become lifelong students of the Dharma, and we take that as a badge of pride, but actually we should be accomplishing the Dharma. And these past version to being critiqued, and I can understand we don't want other people to be judging us, right? And we shouldn't be judging each other, but we certainly should be judging ourselves. And judging doesn't have to be harsh or heavy. Actually, when one is free to really assess their behavior, their speech, their thoughts, when they're able to really honestly look at it and really be truthful, having that deep integrity, it is very liberating. It's very freeing because it starts to break down and break up and destroy delusion. And that's our whole problem, just being deluded. And so the obstacles that arise in our life, 99% of them arise in the mind, and maybe a small percentage is out there, something really happening. But how we process that, how we see it, how we understand it, and how we respond to it all has to do with the picture that is in our mind. And so he talks in this whole book about freedom is salvation for prison. And he talks about these mental prisons, cells that are the cause of dukkha. And attachment basically is the real culprit. Just attachment all by itself. And this prison takes on many different kinds of forms. It could be craving, it could be defilements of the mind. But if we understand that the part of the heart of Buddhism is to wipe out these kinds of attachments to external things, and even attachments to internal things like our thoughts, our views, our opinions, then we would experience freedom from that, freedom from attachment, freedom from that prison. He talked about we must learn in the thing itself, actually meaning that we must learn in the actual prison. And so when we try to go outside to learn things, we don't really get free. We like know something intellectually, but we don't know it experientially. The only way that we're going to do that is yes, there is some value to external learning from books, ceremonies, practices, and things like that. But everything that the Buddha talks about is based on this living body itself as the laboratory for our experiment and our experience. And so we have to learn that inside. Within ourselves, and we have to learn that while we're alive, right? Like while we're in the land of the living, I mean, like before we die. So that's what some meditation practices are really about, you know, going inside this kind of inner study. It's not always all solid and just trying to empty the mind. Sometimes it requires deep looking at something that we don't want to see. And we just keep looking at it until we can look at it without the anguish of seeing it. Then it becomes like detached from us in a certain way. And we see that's unwholesome. We see that's not useful. It's a waste of time. We see, you know, and then we can have the strength to do something about it. If we're defending it, we don't have any strength to put towards uprooting something because all of our energy is going towards defending something. So it is a wonderful teacher for us to be able to not just sit with things. That's a nice catchy phrase, sit with it. But it's not just about sitting with it. It is penetrating the reality that the inner anguish, the aversion, whatever you have, whatever is whatever is going on is actually going on inside. So he says life itself is a prison. Look, and you can see, and that's of course due to all the unsatisfactoriness and dissatisfaction we have in the mind. The sun can be shining outside, but if you're gloomy inside, it's like a gloomy day. You know, you're not getting any benefit from the sunshine. It could be raining outside, and it can be a gloomy day, but if you're joyful in your heart, it doesn't matter whether it's raining. You just get an umbrella, or you can like just tiptoe in the rain, you know. And so we know that how we see things internally creates our reality. We know that, and yet we still look for some outer way of escape. But the way of escape is within us. And if you're successful then in practicing this anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, then you will have success in life. There will be mind cultivation there, but we have to go into it with the right attitude, not just trying to wipe out everything, but to penetrate everything and understand it. So we can live this life, in the most meaningful way, and we can carry on in line with natural law. Okay, but then to follow the law of nature is a kind of prison also. And this kind of prison comes from how we think of ourselves as this individuated I, how the self is born, and this I gets anxious and it worries and it's frightened and it's afraid, of things. So this difficulty comes from constantly thinking or sitting in the center, of our reality with a building an external construct all around us, but we're sitting in the center as the center of the universe, center of my universe, center of my life. And and if we had no attachment regarding I, then the things that we have to do in the course of a day or the course of a week, or the course of a month, the course of a year, or even 10 years would not seem like a prison. It's just what we have to do with what's arising in the present moment. And sometimes with wisdom, we can see, well, if I don't want this, then don't do that. And we'll start to really see this dependent origination. And when this is, that is, and when this isn't, that isn't. So some things we want to be gone from our life, right? But we're doing the things that keep creating that in our life. And some things that we want to bring into our lives, we don't do the things that will actually foster or generate the possibility of those things manifesting in our life. Then he went on and talked about the instincts are prison. And it even gave the example about how, I think it was in this, or maybe something, maybe actually I watched it on the Nature Channel, and how the different animals have the instinct too. They have a mating instinct, they have the showing off instinct. I saw this documentary and it had all these different birds, and I mean, like, who knew? They look like just plain old ordinary birds, but when, let's say, a female came around, then the male birds would open their wings and there's all these beautiful colors tucked inside. They would strut, they would move their heads, they would like make the cockatoodle sounds, and they strut back and forth, and it's by instinct. And like us, we don't have all of those beautiful colors in our bodies, but we adorn our bodies then with all of these beautiful clothes, shirts and dresses and suits and shoes and jewelry and so forth. And it really stems from part of that deep-seated instinctual nature that is in us, and it shines through in our unawakened state. And we talked about the senses being a prison. That's our eyes and nose and tongue and body and mind, and our ears, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. 6, right? It includes mind as a prison. It says that whenever, we notice something through seeing it or tasting or touching it, that a certain feeling arises. We either like it or we don't like it, or we can even be neutral about it. Just don't really have a preference, don't like it and don't not like it. Or sometimes we barely see something. I did one of these tests the other day, and it was saying count the number of times the man bounces on the trampoline. So, and see if you get them all. All right, so that was the setup. Count the times the man's jump. And I'm just watching the man jump on the bounce on the trampoline, like I'm not gonna miss any of this. And I'm counting 1, 2, 3, and it goes through number 13 or 15. And it says, so how many did you see? You know, if you got 15, like, yay, you were right. You know, I said, but did you see the gorilla? How many of you saw the gorilla that walked across the back of the room? A big old gorilla. I didn't see it. I didn't see it at all. And yet, I'm sitting here watching this screen and this great big gorilla walks across the back. And I'm so intently counting and watching the guy bouncing that my eyes completely missed that. And sometimes, like, I can tell you the truth about the seatbelt buzzing, you know, pinging or whatever it does. When I'm in a car, like, I just really don't hear that. It just does not compute. It doesn't relate to me unless somebody is in the car with me driving and they pull and say, yeah, well, you know, whenever you get ready to buckle up, we'll pull on off, you know. And so that's usually the only time I pay attention to it. But yet it'll be driving everybody else in the car. How can you stand to hear? Like what? I'm like, I just tune that part out, you know? And so we talked about superstition being a prison. You know, I think Stevie Wonder said it the best. He said, when you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer. He talked about sacred institutions being a prison. He talked about teachers being a prison. And then we were where we are today about holy things are prison. Now, when we get to sacred institutions, you know, and we start talking about our teachers now, oh, you better watch out because you're getting into some scary territory, you know. But every place has a famous teacher whose name is bouncing around, you know, and people cling and attach to their teachers as being the only teacher who is correct. Their teacher's right, all other teachers are wrong. They refuse to even listen to other people's teachers, and they don't think about or examine the teachings even of their own Bhantes or Ajahns or Ayahs or Lamas or Rinpoche, so and so, you know. So it's an attachment, you know, actually that's truly, it's truly ridiculous. But we just keep building prisons out of our teachers and our gurus, and we have to not get caught up in there. But we should point to and home in on the teachings and whether they're teachings of liberation or not, and whether they're coming from somebody we like or don't like. That's the principal thing. Then he went on and we're talking now about holy things are prison. So you see, we've started from what we know is just absolutely a prison, things that absolutely bind you. And now we're refining and we're finding the things that we consider sacrosanct, the things that they also are a prison. So the next prison is that of Holy Scriptures, which we can find everywhere. And among those people where there isn't much wisdom, these things are much clung to, and the more so as being holy. They even become stand-ins or replacements for God. It's as if merely bringing in the holy books is the same as actually getting help. It leads to there being many kinds of holy objects, sacred relics, holy water, all kinds of sacred things. Be careful of this word holy because it can become a prison before you know it. The more holy something is, the more greatly it imprisons. So watch out for so-called sacredness or holiness. Now, this is not to be disrespectful or to have the wrong attitude about things. It should be anything that promotes your growth and your well-being. I mean, even if it's if a chant actually puts you in a different frame of mind, a helpful, or resourceful, or forgiving frame of mind, then use it as a Dharma instrument. I'm not saying that throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm just simply saying that don't think that the chant has this intrinsic power. You know, it is the utilization of it for elevating oneself to a higher frequency, which takes maybe the chant and the chanter, but it is you bringing the power to bear, um, and using the chant merely as an instrument to cause that to arise, so that's why you have to be genuine in whatever you do, or genuine in whatever you say, or genuine in whatever service you perform, or genuine in whatever ceremony you do, or genuine in whatever vow you make. It has to do with your genuineness. That's one part. Of course, the skillfulness is the other part, but starting with being genuine. Don't be fake, don't be phony, really know yourself, know your capacity, your capabilities, and just rest in that. And when one has done their very best, that's the best that one could do. Sometimes one does not have the capacity to do all the things that they want to do. They don't have the training, maybe they don't have the discipline, maybe they haven't established the discipline. They don't have the desire. So then you're just going through the motions. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to improve ourselves. I'm simply saying know exactly where you are and why you're there. And if we spend more time doing that, looking at that around our own life, we'd be far more content. That's number one. And being far more content, the mind would be less anxious and more at ease, so that then more reality could penetrate, like those blind eyes that didn't see the big gorilla walking across the back because I was so focused on that one man bouncing on the trampoline, so that's how we should think about holy things. Know that there's nothing more sacred, if you want to call something sacred, than the law of cause and effect, the law of conditionality. It is definitely higher than everything else. Everything else is holy by convention, or by what people concoct themselves, making something holy or profane. But the law of cause and effect, conditionality, it is the highest. So it is sacred in itself without needing any attachment. It controls everything, and it's truly holy all by itself. So don't get caught up in the prison of holy things. Don't make sacred things into a prison for yourself. Just do the best you can with whatever's arising. Learn from your mistakes, do better next time, and keep living each day in this way. Goodness is a prison. Goodness. A further prison is one that is very important, the one that causes all sorts of problems. This prison is what they call goodness. Everyone likes the good, and they all teach each other to do good. But then they worship what they call good. And as soon as there is attachment mixed in with what they call good, then good becomes a prison. You ought to have goodness, but without being attached to it. Then good won't be a prison. If there's attachment, it becomes a prison. Like we say, they go crazy about good. They get drunk on good. They get lost in good until it turns into a problem. So be extremely careful not to make goodness into a prison. But there's nothing we can do to help. Now, everyone is caught in this prison of goodness, blindly, obliviously trapped in the prison of good. If you're a Christian, we request that you think and ponder much about the teachings in the book of Genesis, where God forbids Adam and Eve to eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't go and eat it, or it will lead to knowing how to discriminate between good and evil. I just got a lesson about this tonight from my Buddha master, because he was sharing a way to protect myself and to protect the Dharma. And I'm thinking like, well, it'll just be what it is. I'm strong enough to go through what I might have to go through. And he said, that's just a wrong view, you know. And he was saying, listen to me, because I'm trying to teach you something right now. And this is exactly what he was talking about. So I think this is good and this is evil, or this is the right way to do something or think about it, and this is the wrong way to do and think about it. He says, no, evil is coming at you. You raise up a standard against it. You stop it, you know. And he says, don't go and eat in the book of Genesis of the knowledge of good and evil, or it will lead to knowing how to discriminate between good and evil. And it attaches with upadana, attachment towards that good and evil, and then good and evil both become prisons. This teaching is very profound and very good, most intelligent and wise, but nobody seems to understand it. People don't show much interest in it, and thus cannot be correct Christians. And I'll say also correct Buddhists. If they were proper Christians, they would not cling with attachment to good and evil. We must not make either good or evil into prison. This means not getting caught up in the prison of goodness. Wow. We swallowed that fruit and came to know good and evil, then got caught and stuck in all the good and the evil. We have the continual problems ever since. That is how it came to be called original sin, or sometimes perpetual sin in the Bible. It became the original prison, a perpetual prison. Please be aware, be careful not to get caught in this original prison, this perpetual prison. Don't ever let yourself get caught in it. With being imprisoned in goodness or the good, as soon as one gets caught, it carries on further, all the way to the highest goodness, to supreme goodness. Then the supreme goodness will become that supreme prison. If it develops this way, then God will become the supreme prison. May you understand and remember what that attachment builds prisons in this way. And views are prison. The next prison is our own ditty. The Pali word ditty is difficult to translate. Knowledge, thoughts, ideas, theories, opinions, beliefs, understanding, all of these are ditties. When we were writing a song and we submitted it for review, and the Holy Gurus came back with us and said, that's not Dharma right there. And then they put in a line, they replaced something that I had, and they put another line in there. And it was, and the line was talking about the hindrance of knowledge, and how we needed to overcome the hindrance of knowledge. And right there, they gave me a Dharma teaching, great, it's in the song, but it like jumped out at me like a lion or like a tiger, when they were talking about the hindrance of knowledge. And this is where thoughts, ideas, and theories, and opinions, and beliefs, and understandings, it isn't just certain opinions and little beliefs. It's all of them. It's all views, everything with which we experience. That's called the ditty. We are caught in this prison of our own ditty. If we don't obey anyone except our personal ditty, this is a most terrifying prison, because we impetuously, rashly, hastily sail along according to our own personal views. We turn our backs on and lose out to the things that ought to benefit us, because our mind is closed to everything but our own views, beliefs, and views. And they become a horrible prison that holds us back and locks us into just one way of understanding. Then he talks about purity. He said, this is the highest prison. It's truly strange and marvelous. You could call it the highest prison. The highest prison is that which they call innocence or purity. It's difficult to understand exactly what they mean by these words. People never seem to know exactly what they're talking about, but yet this purity is clung to and attached to and is regarded as this and that. It's worshiped, it's used for show and competition, for boasting even over how pure I am. But if there's attachment, it's all just purity through attachment. It's not genuine purity. There are many forms of purity that are assumed out of clinging, such as needing to take baths or making incantations, being anointed, sprinkled, or doused with who knows what, or any of the myriad rituals and ceremonies done for purity. This purity is pure attachment, and purity through attachment is a prison. So please don't get lost and end up in the prison named purity. It's something pitiful to see, clinging to self so much and then attaching to purity just as much. Some religious creeds even go so far as to teach some perpetual purity as some eternal soul dwelling in some eternity or some such thing. The whole thing comes from grasping and clinging to purity through attachment until one is caught in an eternal prison. It just ends up being an eternal prison. So now where does that leave us? All the way from what we consider the bad to what we consider the highest good. Everything is a prison. So where are we left? So he talks about what is not a prison. He says voidness is not a prison. May we tell you that this is the last one, the final prison? Escape from the prison of highest purity, break out of the purest prison into the voidness free of soul and self, not having any self, living free from self, voidness of self, of any sense of self, void of all ideas and notions about self. Now that's true purity. We're always thinking about how something will affect us, how, and mostly how it will affect the me that I think I am, how it will affect my reputation, how it will affect the way people look at me or think about me. And why do we care so much about that? Right there, you can see the attachment and the clinging to an I. Any purity which is truly eternal cannot be a prison in any respect unless people misunderstand and cling to it as a self, in which case it becomes a prison again. So let go unequivocally, be absolutely free of self. That is the real purity. It's no prison. Voidness is the purity, which is not a prison. So it is the real prison. The collection of all these prisons that we have mentioned is the thing called Atta in Pali, or self. One self is the prison. This self here is the prison. Every kind of prison is included in, comes down to the words oneself or myself, clinging to self as self, and then as belonging to a self, attaching to I and mine. This is the true prison, the heart and soul of all prisons. All prisons are gathered in that word, Atta. Tear out the foolishness that creates Atta, along with Atta itself. Foolishness and all the prisons will be gone if you practice Anapanasati, mindfulness, the breathing in and out correctly until truly successful in it, real, not imagined success, then you will destroy all the prisons completely. That is, destroy Atta, and then all the prisons are finished, and we won't build any more of them ever again. May you all experience success in destroying the prisons, that is, Atta or self. The purpose of Anapanasati is remove all vestiges of attachment regarding self. The complete removal of attachment towards self is the final and perfect quenching of dukkha, which happens to be the meaning of liberation or salvation. The highest goal of every religion is salvation, the value and benefits of which are beyond words. So please try. Anapanasati, when practiced correctly, leads to this liberation from Atta. I've been trying my best, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to help everyone understand Anapanasati and practice it successfully in order that all of us can escape from all aspects of humanity's prison. And so now we're at that's the end of the book. And he says the conflict and the violence in American society and throughout the world can always be traced back to some kind of clinging to I and mine, clinging to skin color, gender, age, nationality, race, even religion brings us nothing but grief. May all Americans wake up to their prison of life and liberate themselves from their shackles. Only then will this great country fulfill its mission of modeling a just freedom and moral democracy for the entire world to respect. Then the religious aspirations of the founders will be fulfilled. May that day come sooner than later. So I hope you've enjoyed this book, The Prison of Life. It's one that you should have. If you don't have a copy of it, you can send a request in for us, and we will either tell you where to download it, or we will provide you with a copy. It's one that one should read every month because you can read it in a couple of hours. And ponder, you should be checking on yourself to see how you are improving in your understanding and recognition of what imprisons you and how to get free. I mean, the only way one is going to get free is that one has to free oneself. Is that right? There's nobody who can free you from your own prisons. They are of your making, whether through ignorance or willfulness, they are of your making, and only you can free yourself. So when we're doing the mindfulness of breathing, we're actually using a method, the method that helps us to still and quiet the mind and to bring down or cut the attachment of the sense gates that we have towards what we see and hear and taste, touch and smell and think. And as we abide for periods of time in this neutral space, we start to lose our attachment, our sense of attachment, our need for attachment to the things that have kept us imprisoned in our own mind and in our own bodies. So I think that's all I want to say today. If you have a little time left, if you could just spend the next 10 minutes perhaps meditating. And I am not sure that I know how to cut this off, and someone just ducked out of the room for a minute. I hear her. She's over there making some kind of an appointment for me. I will be back in Hendersonville tomorrow. I had a very successful time with Buddha Master, and as you know, it's very difficult to see him and to get particularly get questions answered, because so many people are trying to see him. He has so many things to take care of, but he gave me his undivided attention tonight, even cleared the whole Dharma Assembly Hall so that I could ask some questions that only he and I, could hear. Now, of course, I asked Soma to stay with me just to make sure I didn't miss anything that he said. And I asked Master Zazi to stay because perhaps she could give me more insight on some things he was sharing with me. It has all been very wonderful, very fruitful, and it was worth flying out here for like a 1 hour audience with him. I'm very, very grateful. You know, while we were out here as well, there were some other disciples, and I just watched how they like, you know, clamored and even worked themselves into a frenzy, you know, wanting a blessing from him, wanting a blessing from him. And he kept saying, like, you don't need that, you know, but all they needed, they needed, like, you don't need it, you don't need it. And then finally, just like how you just tolerate may not be a good word. Sister, just stay right there because I want you to be able to turn this off of me. Not tolerate, but to just give in to an impetuous child. You know, he said, all right, come on. And he pat one on the head, and that started a whole frenzy. And, you know, even the people who are there to help him and support him could not hold these women back from needing that. And I just looked at him and saw the patience that he has working with people's minds, you know, and I marveled, and I said, I need more patience. You know? So sometimes it's not just what your teacher teaches you, it's what you can observe and contemplate and know. And this is the way that we have the wordless teachings of the master. Yeah, right. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you, no danger. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life.